Well, hey now, welcome to Fitz's Electric Bar. Fitz here. This is my segment called What's in My Pile. So very briefly, this is music that's collected at the base of my stereo. Tends to be where my go-to records. I actually don't even these days go through my alphabetical library and pull much out because I've got so much new stuff coming in. But as I've mentioned in an earlier video, I feel like that needs to change a little bit, and I need to appreciate what I've got and go deeper back into my catalog and not necessarily be buying at the breakneck pace that I am. But let me go through some of the records that I'm listening to that I'm really enjoying. And again, a little takeoff on the amoeba, what's in my bag. Starting off with Scott Walker. So a few years ago, I discovered Scott Walker. I'd heard his name many, many times and started to listen to his music and just completely enthralled with it. Beautiful, I don't know if it's a baritone voice, but a very low voice. And so I'm keeping my eyes open for vinyl. I've got one of those sort of 5-album CD sets that are super cheap and a great way to discover artists, but want to sort of gradually collect some vinyl. So this is Scott 3, and the opening track on here, It's Raining Today. It simultaneously cracks me up and also somehow sort of accesses a part of my heart that I love. And Descending Strings, followed by Scott Walker and his unique voice. It's raining today. That's all the singing I'm going to do. So Scott 3, Scott Walker. Another one I picked up recently that I'm enjoying is the Acoustic Sounds Jazz Samba. So Stan Getz and Charlie Bird, really nice sounding record. Of course, it's got a certain kind of quality to it, that jazz samba sound that is both rhythmically exciting and interesting and also very, very soothing and relaxing. So Acoustic Sounds, Jazz Samba, Stan Getz, Charlie Bird. This is a new one from one of my main men, as it were, and it's Daniel Romano and Daniel Romano's Outfit. He's in town to play a show next week at the Hollywood Theatre here in Vancouver. I'm looking forward to that. This is a very punky record, actually, and I've mentioned before when I cover his stuff is that he does a variety of different styles and does them all equally well, from real country and Western to melancholic country and Western cry in your beer stuff, to album-oriented rock, to progressive rock, to almost operatic stuff, and he does some punky stuff really well. And there's that fabulous cover I mentioned a few times of the Bob Dylan Infidels record that is super, super high charged, and I find maybe almost better than Dylan's. Sacrilege, oh sacrilege. So this is Daniel Romano's Outfit. I have to confess, I'm not loving it. It feels a little bit like a one-trick pony, but and maybe it's just that I'm not in the mood for kind of sort of more punky, super high energy stuff right now. But anyways, I always want to collect his stuff as much as possible. This one was kind of like a 100 copies as a limited edition in red, but also it comes with an Outfit poster. Fit for my teenager walls that I have posters on, although I'll probably keep this in the record. It also has the mysterious Cobra decal and a signed, and not stamped, but actually signed 8x10 of the band. So that's kind of cool. Daniel Romano's Outfit. Here's a blast from the past. I think for many years, I probably wouldn't have been caught dead putting Al Stewart's Year of the Cat on back in my prideful sort of punk and hard rock, post-punk days. But this is a record that I got into in grade 13, so in high school. And the stuff that I remember, I had just moved to Toronto from Ottawa, and I moved ahead of my family and lived with a family and of relatives, and I lived in their house for a few months. And it was tough, coming to a new school in the last year of high school. Everybody's got their friends. And so I dove really deep into certain records, and they included Wind and Wuthering by Genesis, and this record, Year of the Cat. And quite frankly, this is a great sounding record. And as you can see, this is a mobile Fidelity one. Got this used. And it really is a step up in the quality of the sound, and I am just really enjoying it. I think this one falls in the camp of primarily nostalgia, I suppose, for me, and bringing up that period of my life, although I don't sit there and think about that, but it, triggers those emotions, and it's really nice to listen to. The mix and the production is wonderful, very clear, really nice separation, warm bass, Al Stewart and his guitar playing is beautiful. And it's a really nice record. Al Stewart, Year of the Cat, Mobile Fidelity. I was in Red Cat Records, one of my local record stores, and the gentleman who runs the store, whose name escapes me, is also a big Grant Lee Phillips fan. I have been a Grant Lee Phillips fan since the days of Grant Lee Buffalo, and there was a record that I love of his, again, post Grant Lee Buffalo, called The Narrows, I think. Very beautiful singer-songwriter, and this is very much in that same vein. So Grant Lee Buffalo, Walking in the Green Corn, and there's just some really nice songs, tends towards the mellow, and he's got a great voice and he creates a great mood. Kind of reminds me a little bit of M. Ward, I guess, a little more kind of traditional, as it were, a little less quirky. Sometimes M. Ward does some neat, quirky things, but this is a really nice record. This is one that I'll be playing for years, I'm sure. Just really enjoy the singer-songwriter feel of that record. One I've had on CD for many years and I've always really enjoyed is this Donald Byrd, New Perspective, Bandon Voices. It's got a gospel quality to it. It's different, but maybe kind of feels a little bit from the same place as Grant Green's record. Name escapes me. Feeling the Spirit, I think, which is kind of a gospel-based one. But this is gorgeous. Really nice vocals, not choir vocals, more like gospel vocals. And the track on here that is just absolutely killer, that makes this record, and it just sounds so good, is Cristo Redentor, first track on second side. And when Donald Byrd's trumpet comes in, it's just like, whoa, it just cuts through everything, and it's triumphant. It's almost like a what would they call it, like a funeral song or something. You can imagine this being something played at a funeral in Louisiana or something like that, at least to my mind. This is a gorgeous record. Donald Byrd, Bandon Voices, A New Perspective. And this one came out in, when was it? Of course, it just came out as a jazz classic recently and remastered by Kevin Gray, but the original must be like late 60s or early 70s. Sorry, don't see the actual date on here. 64. Really nice. The classic vinyl series. This is an old one that I often bring out in the spring, and that's Blue Cafe, or actually it's, what's it called? My Ever-Changing Moods, but Paul Weller, The Style Council with Mick Talbot, and it's got My Ever-Changing Moods on it, and Blue Cafe, and the Paris Match. I've talked about this before, but the Paris Match, really one of the best vocal performances, Tracy Thorn singing on that song, and this is a great record. There's also another one that came out around the same time. It's got Long Hot Summer, which is a really nice track as well. So Paul Weller and the Style Council, a spring record for sure. I got a couple of the most recent, I think it's the most recent, Rhino High Fidelity. I don't have, or didn't have, American Beauty on vinyl, so it was a perfect time to pick that up. And this is a gorgeous, I've always liked this. I have this on CD, two versions. I have the remastered one with the live concert with it as well. And then which was reissued. They reissued Working Man's Dead. And they're going through their whole studio catalog, but Working Man's Dead and American Beauty, these back-to-back albums, really among the best of the studio recordings of the Grateful Dead. But this American Beauty on Rhino is really, really nice. I love what Rhino does. The jacket is really just a beautiful, beautiful jacket. Lovely gatefold there of the band. Oh, big pen there. And so American Beauty, Grateful Dead, Rhino High Fidelity. And I got another High Fidelity one. I don't know quite why. When I order from the States, you've got the shipping charge. So you're already, as everybody knows, Rhino High Fidelity doesn't go into record stores, so you have to order straight from Rhino. US dollars, sometimes there's tax or taxes bringing it in, and the shipping is quite a bit. So sometimes I think about getting 2 records because the incremental cost of shipping 2 records versus 1 is minimal. So I decided to get this. I've been going through a huge Van Morrison kick. I don't know if I've stopped for the last 25 years, but I didn't know this record as much. This came out, I believe, either right before or right after, I think right after Moondance. And what a classic Moondance is, although kind of my favorites are probably, I think I've overplayed Moondance, although I just love it. It's a great sounding record. Anyways, this one is Van Morrison is Bandon the Street Choir. Very nice record. Not up to the level certainly as Moondance or Weed and Fleece or so many others of his. Probably 10 records that are better, but that's not saying that this isn't great. I think for my money, Van is probably one of the artists that has the most sort of 5-star records or 4 to 5-star records in his catalog. One of the most, I think, for me. Yeah, even though he is a bit of a nut job, he writes great music, records great music. I mentioned a few times, but I continue when I look at my pile that Acetone is one of those bands that I just keep going back to over and over again. It was just an absolute, euphoria, not euphoria, it was like a revelation when I first heard this and got this and Light in the Attic compilation. And I've just, really, really enjoyed it. And I've gone out and gotten a couple other Acetone records as well. I've got York Boulevard here as well. And I've got another one of theirs, just the self-titled Acetone. I haven't got all of them. And in a sense, there is sort of a sound to them that is so unique, much like the Cowboy Junkies. I mean, it's not that different than the Cowboy Junkies in some ways, but in the same sense that the sound is so unique and so languid, I guess, that one wonders whether you need to have multiple albums by them. But I've got these 3, and the compilation's the one I keep going back to, maybe because it's the first one I got of Acetone, and really, really like it. This one just came out. I'd never heard of it before. Johnny Little, and People in Love. And the title track, so first of all, he's a vibraphone player, and he is I don't seek out vibraphone players, and I don't know the kind of like all of the vibraphone players that are out there that are well known. But I listened to this when I heard this was being released. I listened to this in the streaming services. I love it. I love the tone of the record. It's a beautiful tone. There's some serious jamming going on, especially on side 2. The Tawhid and People Make the World Go Round. Tawhid is 7 minutes, and People Make the World Go Round is almost 12 minutes. Just some really good jamming. And the first side has got Where Is the Love, that track. I'm not sure who did it, but you know the song. And it's really suitable for vibraphone. It's really nice. Anyways, this is a outstanding record. Highly recommend it. Of course, you can stream it first and see what you think. But I'm very happy with this. I've been playing this a lot since I got it about 10 days ago. Something from the past that I thought I had on CD, but I didn't, and so I must have it digitally. But for years ago, I listened to this record a lot and just loved these guys. And just got reissued on a Spanish label, Elephant Records, out of Madrid. And that is Camera Obscura. They're kind of in the same vein as Bell and Sebastian. You could sort of say that they're sort of a twee-sounding band. This record is so good, and I love the reference to Lloyd Cole and the Commotions. So Lloyd, I'm Ready to Be Heartbroken, leads off side 1. And on side 2, Let's Get Out of This Country is another barn burner of a song. So it's kind of, it's actually quite high energy, more than twee would suggest. The last song, Razzle Dazzle Rose, I was listening to it. I just think it's a beautiful song. It's a wall of sound. It really sounds a lot like a Phil Spector production. I don't know if they were going for that, but it's kind of like that You've Lost That Loving Feeling by the Righteous Brothers. It's got that quality to it, strings, horns, or keyboard horns or whatever, but there's a lot going on. It's just a wall of sound and some beautiful female vocals, and Razzle Dazzle Rose. Also love that. Anyways, excellent record, Camera Obscura. They've got a new record coming out. I did listen to it very briefly, and it didn't really do much for me. But this particular record, Let's Get Out of This Country, the title of the album, is definitely a really good one. Another one that my enablers, the vinyl dealers out there that are getting me hooked, that I really enjoy. A few people talked about Tony Rice. Now, I am, as many of you know, a Grateful Dead fan, and also a Jerry Garcia, David Grisman, and Olden in the Way, and some of the bluegrass stuff. And but I don't go deep into the bluegrass tradition. Tony Rice is considered to be a really great bluegrass musician, but when I listened to this, I felt it transcended bluegrass. Sometimes bluegrass can be a little bit, I don't know what the word is, but a little bit kind of hickish, but or just very narrow in its sound. And this record is broader than that, and he name checks Gordon Lightfoot, says special thanks to Gordon Lightfoot, and I think they had some connection, I'm not sure what, but it does remind me a little bit of Gordon Lightfoot music, and really nice vocals, some just tremendous guitar picking, but not in the real sort of like that. It's a little more subtle than that. It's not about speed demon kind of playing. It's definitely got some real emotive stuff to it. Anyways, I really like this record. Tony Rice, it's called Church Street Blues, and it's a reissue by Kraft of the Sugar Hill record release. Some people get very nostalgic. I don't know if I have any other Sugar Hill, but it does seem familiar. But the Sugar Hill label, reissued by Kraft. Tony Rice and Church Street Blues. Speaking of Gordo, so one of the artists I was mentioning earlier that I've been getting into, or I'm keeping my eyes open for Scott Walker vinyl. I'm doing the same with Gordon Lightfoot. Now, he passed away recently. I never got a chance to see him live. He's got so many classic songs, and really a Canadian institution or icon, basically. And just a side note that my partying days, when I'd go to a party, sometimes a friend of mine would refer to me and the state I was in as the wreck of the Brian Fitzgerald, which was my real name, as my nieces would say. I know your real name. I like to go by Fitz in the family. So a few Gordon Lightfoots that I picked up recently in the used bins. So this one here, The Way I Feel. This one has the Canadian Railroad Trilogy, which is a really, really great song. Kind of a Dylan-esque, long, many stanzas, storytelling about the building of the Canadian Railroad, which is a big deal in Canadian history for sure, in terms of linking our country together, this great vast land of ours. Gordon Lightfoot again. This one's got Early Morning Rain. I love Early Morning Rain, but it's interesting. His voice is a little bit kind of higher. Doesn't have quite the warmth that he developed a little bit later that I liked a little bit more. But Lightfoot, exclamation mark. Interesting too. I see that bassist is Bill Lee, and I'm wondering if that's Bill Lee, the jazz bass player, who is actually Spike Lee's father. I'll have to look that up. I don't know. But some of Spike Lee's soundtracks, like Do the Right Thing, the original music score for that record, was recorded and maybe arranged by Bill Lee, Spike's father. And Lightfoot. How Did She Mention My Name? And of course, that song is well known. Did She Mention My Name? And this has also got Black Day in July, which is about the civil rights and race riots in the States, I think specifically Detroit, which is a very heavy, heavy song. Gordon Lightfoot. Another person who I've been going back and getting stuff, and the record that I've been listening to, this has kind of been my gateway to going back and getting his catalog, is Bruce Cockburn. In university, Bruce Cockburn was kind of always popular in the university circuit, really good guitarist and singer-songwriter, got very political, I think he went through, maybe is still considered himself a Christian. Saw him not that long ago, still has his chops, but he's definitely aged. I think he's got a lot of arthritic issues and stuff like that. But this record was my entrance into, well, the entrance into Bruce Cockburn was actually Going Down the Road, which was a soundtrack to the movie of the same name, which was kind of a real Canadiana about a couple guys coming from the East Coast and coming to Toronto to kind of make their way and make their fame and fortune. And it's sort of like Midnight Cowboy in a Canadian version, because it's they're kind of they're really naive, and they come to Toronto and they're ill prepared for the big city, and they really struggle with kind of trying to make a go of it. But back to Bruce Cockburn, that song I've always loved, and that's on a compilation now. But this particular record is Dancing in the Dragon's Jaws, just a gorgeous, beautifully produced record. Some indigenous art on the cover, and yeah, this is for me still my favorite. And I've been going off, and I've got a whole bunch, but just another example. I got this one, the Inner City Front, and there's a lot of great stuff by Bruce Cockburn that is out there, and I'm going to gradually collect a whole bunch of Bruce Cockburn stuff. Another record that I got a while ago, might have mentioned before, but this is one of the Deutsche Grammophon original source, so these are coming from, cut straight from the master tapes, and it's a beautiful sounding record. I know very little about classical music, but this is one of those records that I just love to put on early in the day, and it's got Debussy on one side, Trois Nocturnes, Nuages, Fête, Sirène, and Ravel, Daphne and Chloe, and Pavane, which I knew before, and just really nice. This is a great record. The conductor is Claudio Abbado, and really enjoyed that. This is a numbered edition, I guess, so limited edition. Every time I think about limited edition, I can't help but think about the Sex Pistols. Unlimited edition, EMI. This record I've also been gradually getting into. It's a double record, Yusef Dawes. It's a really nice cover. It's got this really nice embossing. I think I've talked about this before, but some really nice beats, jazz, kind of fusion, but not in the old style of jazz fusion. There's a lot going on with this, and just a really nice record, and one that I enjoy putting on. Another record that I had on CD that I just loved, Money Jungle, Duke Ellington, Charlie Mingus, and Max Roach. And in particular, the track Fleurette Africaine, Le Fleur Africaine, is just truly one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard. I just love it. The piano playing, Duke Ellington, the way he plays the piano, it's just gorgeous, a beautiful ballad. And another one that I've just started really kind of getting into is this Ronnie Lane record, a reissue of Ronnie Lane. So Ronnie Lane, of course, of The Faces, and also that wonderful record that he does with Pete Townsend, Rough Mix. And this one's called Anymore for Anymore. And this is really nice. This is 1974. Not sure when this was released, but this is definitely one of those like early 70s records. It's got that sound that I just absolutely love at that time. It seems like so much great music was released at that time. So Ronnie Lane, Anymore for Anymore. These two I'm going to mention very briefly because I did talk about them on my Enablers video recently, but continue to just love this record, The Circling Sun, Spirits, recommended by Phillips at the Jazz Bums, and this one that I guess I first heard from Mazzy. And I love this. And one thing I didn't mention on my Enablers video was there are a couple movie soundtrack songs. I don't know if they're actually part of the movie or if it's actually a song or a theme song from a movie that's being performed just on this record. But Love Theme from Spartacus, that one in particular, which leads off first track on side B, is outstanding. And then I think Love Theme from The Robe as well, but it's a really nice track. And the first track, The Plum Blossom, is gorgeous, and of course referencing that Eastern infatuation with, flowers and blossoms and things like that, and Eastern sounds, Yusef Lateef. Another artist that I have been getting into, and I think I've mentioned before, but Greg Fote. And this is the sound on these records, I was trying to think about what I could compare it to, and I think the closest I would come to, although it's lacking in a real comparison, would be Cinematic Orchestra. So it's got elements of jazz, it's got elements of soul, it's got some beat stuff kind of going on, some really warm bass drum sound, and some really nice strings that are probably synthesizers or keyboards. And just overall a very warm sound. And yeah, it reminds me a bit of the Cinematic Orchestra. But Greg Fote and Gigi Masson Dolphin, this record I listened to a lot. And another one of his that I really like, this is just Greg Fote. This is Symphonie Pacifique. This is a double LP. All instrumental, gorgeous playing, and ultimately, as I often say, what I really love is it just creates a mood. They do a fabulous job, or he does a fabulous job of creating just a great mood. And to close it off, I have the Grateful Dead series of Dave's Picks, and this one just came in. This, my friend Don often talks about wanting mid-'80s Grateful Dead live recordings, and they don't generally do that. But this one here is 1985 at the Frost Amphitheater in Stanford University. So I have a preference for Grateful Dead sort of 72 to 74. I also really like 1990-91 spring Grateful Dead. Except I don't really like the MIDI stuff on the keyboards, but I tend to like piano and organ and a little warmer stuff than the MIDI, just a little cold for my taste. But this was really cool. It's like, it reminded me of how fast they played their music in the mid-'80s. The first time I saw them was '86, and that was quite a revelation, just seeing all the spinning dancers and seeing the band and just the reaction of the crowd to the music as much as the music was really quite something. This is very good, though. And this I get at dead.net, and I have a subscription, so they just arrive in the mail quarterly, and that's really wonderful. So that's it. That's what's in my pile, and carpe diem. We'll see you soon. Bye.